Hi, everybody. This is Cheryl and Life Without a Witness. How are y'all tonight? Uh, my apologies for pushing this back, but my mom called, okay? And I was not going to say, Ma, you need to get off the phone so I can make this video. So we were just going to have to wait, okay? Um, so, y'all, I have a lot of notes for this John of God documentary that's currently on Netflix, okay? Uh, I don't know if I'm gonna go through all of them though, because it was kind of it was kind of hard to get through this documentary. Like, to be completely honest. Okay, I don't know why that's not on. Okay. All right. So I hope y'all can hear me, and my volume isn't tripping. All right. So let's start here. I'm just gonna jump right into it. Okay. So I was interested in reviewing this and in watching this because I'd heard of John of God one time years and years and years ago, and that was when I first, you know, had the experience that compelled me to write Fire and God. I Wayne Dyer was somebody that I started listening to, okay, and I heard about John of God from him because when I started listening to Wayne Dyer, he had just gotten sick or he'd been sick, something like that. But I think he had some kind of form of cancer, and he was talking about visiting, uh, not visiting because he didn't go there. So it was like a virtual healing, that he did with John of God. And after that, like that was it. I never looked more into it or anything like that until I saw that Netflix had a documentary. So I was like, oh, I know that guy. Like I know the name. Okay, so let me see what he's talking about. Let's see. Hold on a second, y'all. I just got to make sure this thing is working the way it should be working. Okay. So that was all I heard about him again until I saw this Netflix documentary. Now the documentary was 4 parts, I believe, 4 parts. And give me a second, y'all. I think it's okay. All right. All right. 4 parts. Now I'm going to show you some. I'm going to put some pictures up here because um, okay, let me just get into it. So it starts with, it's called John of God, The Crimes of a Spiritual Healer. Season 1, episode 1 is called The Healer. Okay. And it begins with people just giving comments. All right. Someone, they're just interviewing folks and they're just talking about stuff. Okay. With really not a whole lot of context. They showed him channeling and praying. Okay. Someone said that he was channeling Solomon from the Bible. Someone also said that he performs procedures without anesthesia. They had a video of Oprah. Oprah Winfrey was there with him. Okay. And she said he was so strong, I thought I was going to pass out. Okay. That's a comment she made. Someone else said he looked me right in the eyes, and he rarely looked at anyone in the eyes. Someone else said I called him father. And someone else said, where was God while I was in that room? So then it got to the first woman, Angela. Angela had a brain. She started, describing her illness and her experience with John of God, which is not his. I mean, his name is something else. I'll get to it in a second. So Angela had a brain tumor. She lost her vision. She had headaches. She was told by the doctor that she had 40 days to live. Okay. What else? They told her some other stuff. Now, she, someone, I think it was her brother, yeah, her father-in-law told her about a medium that he'd heard about who does spiritual surgeries. So, she was like, I have nothing to lose. Let me just go. I'll go. I'll go to see this person. And when she got there, she said, John said he'd been waiting for her. Her husband took her to John of God. He talked about the tumor. John of God told Angela about her tumor and explained to her why the doctors could not get rid of it in the traditional way. Okay. She said he placed scissors in her right nostril, rotated the scissors. She heard a crack, what she said sounded like a cracking bone. All right. Then she blacked out. After that, she said he performed, more things on her, and she puked up blood. Then someone picked her up, or someone picked up the blood that she puked out like into the sink, and she said when they picked it up, it looked like a steak. Okay. So she said she went in to see John of God. When she went in, her husband was carrying her. She couldn't walk. She was just sick. And when she left there, she was walking out on her own. Okay. Now, John of God, let me show the picture here. Joe, I don't know how to say his name. Joao de Jesus. Okay. He was Catholic, which kind of surprised me. I don't know why, because it's in Brazil, right? There's a lot of Catholicism down there. But he was Catholic. He channeled John the Baptist, King Solomon, as I mentioned before, and other Catholic saints. Now, this is where it began to get interesting for me. Okay. Because the individuals around him really, they separated what they said the man from the medium, like he was two different people. And they even, throughout the documentary, they would call him the entity, which to me sounds kind of scary, but the entity is what they called him. Meaning he was at some points while he was channeling, he was no longer human. He was an enlightened and evolved spirit. Okay. And once he came out of that, someone said then he was back to normal. Okay. And he would have no clue of what happened while he was channeling. So they showed the organization or the building where they would give out tokens, and people would have to follow, a certain order to see the entity. Okay. Um, Now they kept saying the entity, the medium, he came back to normal. No, so as I'm hearing this, the word dehumanize came to mind for me. Okay, because that's what it sounded like. It sounded like they were dehumanizing him by calling him these things and saying then he would come back. You know, so of course I looked it up. Y'all know how it goes over here, right? And so to dehumanize means to deprive someone of human qualities, personality, and dignity. Isn't that what they're doing or what they did? Okay, by calling him the entity, they deprived him of human qualities. Okay, when one person, or it's also, so another part of the definition of dehumanize, when one person or group fails to acknowledge, consider, or account for another person or group's mind. Fails to acknowledge another person or group's mind. Okay, which is part of dehumanization. It also means not fully human. Um, Putting psychological distance between you and another individual or group. Now, we think of dehumanization, at least I do, in a negative sense, right? Um, think of the Holocaust, Rwanda. You know, I know in Rwanda they called the Tutsis cockroaches. Okay, because when we're able to do that, to dehumanize someone, then we can do what we want without feeling like we've really done anything wrong. Okay. Um, because they're not human anyway. So what, how bad do you feel when you kill a fly or step on a bug, you know? But I felt like this was happening with him, even though it's not. Well, it is in a negative way. Now, when I say negative, I don't mean this. Let me show you what I mean when I say negative. In a negative way, okay, it's the negative traits of a person that they were by calling him the entity, right? So where is it? Here it is. That's what I mean by negative. Okay. So on the my left is my regular picture, and on the right of that is the negative of that picture. So a negative when it comes to photos is photo image is dark where the the subject is light, and light where the subject is dark. Okay, that's all a negative is. That's all it is. Where this side is light, that side is dark. When that side is dark, that's you know. So I can see, I can see how calling him the entity and all these other things that make him not human, okay, could be negative, right? Which could be the case for all of us, right? Okay, that's just something that came to mind that I thought I'd share with you all. Okay, now the next lady who spoke, is this her? Yes, Andrea. Her mother had cancer, and she went to see John of God. Okay, now she when she went there, this reminded me of church, like it really did, because people got up and they started giving testimonies about, I was sick and this was going on and that was going on, and he did this, that, and the other thing, and I felt better and I was healed, and that's what we did in church every single Sunday. Okay, so people were just giving testimonies either about themselves or their loved ones. Okay, someone said that John of God would operate on up to 200 people per day. That's a lot. um, and they would just be fascinated, about all the healing that was going on, which again got me to thinking, about our fascination with what we call miracles. Okay, miracles. So, what is that about? Now, so something that's a miracle is typically something we feel is against nature. It's not natural. Okay, if it's not natural, if it doesn't normally happen, it's going against the laws of physics and aerodynamics and all these other law, gravity, all that stuff, right? Then we call it a miracle, right? Um, and there is, I mean, still, there just there's really is a huge fascination we have with miracles. So they talked about the medicine. I guess they would have to drink some water that had something in it, when they went there, or no, it was a fruit juice or something that they would drink. Now, one lady in here, she said that in the past, like before John F. Guy got really big, he was still doing this stuff, but he would get arrested sometimes because you can't do spiritual surgeries in Brazil. Um, so he'd get arrested for performing those procedures on different people. All right. So Andrea here, she started. Now these ladies, they're going to pop up every now and then because they would go to her story, then they would go to another person's story, then another person's story, then back to Andrea, okay. So I'm going to do it kind of like that, until I get to the end. So the next individual who spoke, her name was Regine. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right, but she she talked about her history and how she felt like she was a medium already. Her mother was one, and she told a really interesting story. So she went to visit John of God because she said that she was always harassed at work, and from the way she described it, it sounded like um, so she felt she had psychological issues because of the harassment that, I'm not sure who was harassing her, but she was being harassed and she just, she needed some help with that. So she felt like, so that's why she went to see him. Okay. Now she talked about entering the current room, and there was a chain where you had to, someone said you had to give it your all or nothing will work. So what it looked like was a bunch of people sitting like on benches. They were close together. I don't know if they were holding hands or not, but they were really close together, and they were just, it looked like they were praying maybe. And they were, I guess they were praying. So they were calling on the spirits. One lady said the electricity in the room was almost visible. Okay. Then they had a professional therapist who came on and was saying, there was a lot of great things going on in this place, where John of God was doing his work. But she said that uh, she also saw a dark side. Remember that negative, right? She also saw a dark side to John of God. So then they went back to Andrea, so Andrea started to tell her story. And I'll just tell the whole thing so we don't have to go back and forth. She went there for her mom, okay, because her mom had cancer. And she said that the entity, he grabbed my arm and stood up and he said, "You're here because your mother has cancer." You know, she was just, floored because how did he know that? Like, how did he know why she was there? So she was shocked. She said she even began to cry. Then he told her, "You can save your mother." Uh, and he asked to speak to her after the event was over. Okay. So she went with him, to see, and then and he was saying the same thing, "You're the one who can save your mother." And she was like, "But why me? Like, how am I supposed to do that?" Because, and he explained to her, "Well, you have the power, you have the energy, you're just able to do this." And then he was unzipping his pants, she said, and making her do things to and with him that she did not realize at the time were was sexual assault. Okay, because what she said was unfair, and what she was crying about in the documentary was she didn't want to do what he was asking her to do, but because he said, do you want your mother to die, or do you want to actually do what has to be done, to make sure she looks. And she said, well, who's going to take that chance, who's going to say, well, I'm not doing this. She was like, no, but who's going to do that? Who's going to take the chance that their mom will die if they don't do this thing right here? And he'd already told her that her mother's life was in her hands, you know? So she went along with what he asked her to do. And it's, her mom went back to the physical, the regular doctors in Brazil. And the doctors told her mom, well, I don't know what entity, what God, whatever you pray to, but your mother no longer has a malignant cancer. What she had was something that was benign, okay, that wasn't going to kill her, okay. So Andrea never said anything. She never said anything because, number one, her mother was healed. Her mother did not die of this ailment. And then, she just felt like he was too big, like he was too famous, who's going to believe her? I mean, so it was a while before she was really able to talk about what happened. Now, Regine, um, her, let me see, her issue. Okay, so he said to her, he told her that she was a medium. Okay, now she already felt like she was that anyway, So for him to, I guess, validate what she already felt she knew to be true, just gave what he said much more veracity. Okay. So the doctor said, no, no, she said, he said to her, "You have to cure me." Okay. And then she was like, "Oh my goodness, like, who am I to cure you?" And he told her, "I need your energy." So again, the way they described it is this was just another ruse, okay, to get them to, you know, have sex with him, do sexual things with him, okay. Now the next part of the documentary, it's called The Scandal. So this is when stuff started to come out, okay, and now men who worked for him began to talk about how they were seeing some things. Um, One man moved to Brazil, where John of God was, to be a tour guide. Okay, he said, this man said, he said he was checking out the young girls and inviting them to a private session. Um, and there was a personal accountant that he had said when John of God spoke to him, he said, "I felt like I was talking to Michael Jackson." He said, if he told me to flush my head down the toilet, I would have done it. Okay, he was just that, you know, starstruck. You know, that this man who, you know, could become an entity was actually talking to him and asking him to do something. Now, in the second part of the documentary, they talk about when foreigners became involved in what was going on in Brazil, starting with Australia. Okay, Oprah Winfrey went there. I think I have. Do I have that over here? No, I didn't put that over here. But Oprah Winfrey went to see him. You know, as I mentioned what she said in the beginning. Um, but they kept saying, so a young girl accused him of touching her. She was 16 or 17 years old. He always denied it. He always said, "I never did this. I never did anything that they're talking about." Um, and he said, John of God, he said in a video, "I have many flaws. I'm a womanizer, but I'm not a rapist. Okay, I'm old, but I can still be physical with women." Okay, which is not the word that he said, but. And when somebody said, you know, even if all this was going on, the healing never stopped. Okay, people kept coming in. He kept doing, what is it, psychological surgeries, whatever they call that, spiritual surgeries, and you know, they were healed. Let's see what else. Now, at one point in the documentary, it may have been in the, was it the, okay, wait, before I get to that. Okay, so there an investigation started to come about, you know, because people were noticing things. One lady asked, so let me see. Andrea went back to thank him for what he did for her mom. And when she went there, another woman asked her, "Has he ever touched you? Like, has he ever done anything like that to you?" And she said when she asked her that question, it was like she fell through the floor, you know, because she, until that moment, she didn't really put two and two together. Like, that's actually what happened to me. You know, I was molested, and it never even dawned on me that that's what happened. Okay, um, so when in part three, that's when Andrea, um, Regine, and dozens of other women came forward to talk about their experience with John of God. Okay, part three is called The Trial. Faria, that's what they were calling him, Faria. Part four, his daughter came into the documentary and talked about being molested by her father for a long time. Okay, and then she left home, and then she came back when he was doing this, and I believe it started up again. Um, it was hard to listen to. Like it really was. Uh, so something that he said when he was John of God said when he was interviewed, everyone who preached the word of God was nailed to the cross, even Christ. Um, in 2021, so he was tried. Okay, there were like hundreds of women, like 600 women, who came forward, and not just in Brazil, you know, all over the world, who had experiences, with this person. So he was put in jail, then he was let out on house arrest in 2018, 2019. But in July 2021, he got a 64-year sentence. Okay, and in the end, 330 women pressed charges against him. Okay, so now as I'm listening to this documentary, it, there were people. It's kind of like, remember when Bill Cosby was going through his thing, you know, it, because we all have a picture of Bill Cosby, you know, in the Cosby Show. He's the dad that every dad aspires to be. He's the husband that every woman aspires to have. And, you know what I mean? And the father that children would. And then it came out that he'd been drugging these women, and taking advantage of them while they were drugged, you know. So then people were like, Ugh. It's kind of like that thing I talked about where I could not, that movie with Denzel Washington. I'm just going from thing to thing, right? Like, where I didn't know if it was a play or a movie or it's like pick a struggle. Like, what are you gonna do? You gonna be a rapist or you gonna be America's favorite dad? Like, come on, tell me what what do I do? But it's like, let me show you this. And we don't like that. We don't like to be on the fence like that. Are you this or are you that? Like, just tell me, like, what's going on here? Oh, look at this, right? This is an obituary that Kathleen Shunk's family wrote. Okay, she was born March 19th, 1938, to Joseph and Gertrude Shunk. She married Dennis Dimlow at St. Anne's in Wabasso in 1957 and had two children, Gina and Jay. In 1962, she became pregnant by her husband's brother, Lyle Dimlow, and moved to California. She abandoned her children, Gina and Jay, who were then raised by her parents in Clements, Mr. and Mrs. Joseph Shunk. She passed away on May 31st, 2018, in Springfield, and will now face judgment. She will not be missed by Gina and Jay, and they understand that this world is a better place without her. Now, they ended up removing this from the newspaper because obituaries, you know how we get when we write people's obituaries. It's like they never did anything. Like, they were the pillar of the, you know. My brother, y'all know my brother just passed away last year. Uh, the stuff that was said about him, some of it was like, who y'all talking about? Am I in the right place? Is this the right ceremony? Like, who? But we do that, right? It's like, to tell the whole truth about something is, and especially given the situation, if you want to keep the peace, make people feel comfortable and da da da. Because as I'm listening to this documentary, and I don't even know this dude. Okay, like I said, I first heard about him in like 2014. Okay, but as they went on and on, I'm like, man, y'all really beating him to the ground, like, my good. But if he did these things, can he be a, a healer? Oh, here we go. Y'all remember that other video? Can he be a healer? And can he be um, a rapist? You know, can he be these two things at one time? And one not diminish the other. Okay. And one not diminish the other. I mean, that's us. Isn't that us? You know, if I can write, and maybe I'll do this as like practice or something, right? I can write an obituary that is 100% true. That'll have a lot of wonderful, amazing things about Cheryl. But I can also write one like this. Okay. I can write it. I ain't got to wait for nobody else to write. I can write it, you know, and it'll end. She will not be missed, and this world is a better place without her. Okay. I think a lot of us can probably do that. All right. And it's okay that we can do that. It's okay because we're back, like we're back here. We're back here. Okay. One is not better than the other. They are what they are. And together, you know, they make the one, right? Together they make the one. Um Now I know what it's like to be violated, and I mean just what that feels like what that does to a person, you know. And these women, I totally sympathize with every single one of them. Okay, every single one of them. But I think I was also able to extend empathy to the perpetrator because of my negative. Okay, because of my negative. That does not mean your ass don't go to jail for 64 years. That's not what that means at all. That means, okay, I can empathize. Like I can absolutely, you know, even the people, you know, who, you know, I feel have wronged me in some way. There's empathy there because of the negative. Okay. Because of not even because of the negative, because of acknowledgement of the negative. Okay. And negative don't mean bad. That's not what that means. Y'all see this, right? That doesn't mean bad. Okay. It just means negative because of that. Um, John of God, The Crimes of a Spiritual Healer. So on Netflix, you could probably see it on YouTube. Let me know what you think of it. Okay. It's what other things you got out of it. You know, like I got the dehumanization stuff out there. I had a question about miracles. So, you know, what other things pop out for you, you know, when and if you watch this documentary. Thank y'all for listening, and I will see you back here really soon. Okay? Y'all have a good night.